Welcome to the Sowing Hope podcast. This is a show all about implanting hope in our hearts. I'm Bill Snyder, joined by my friend Ann DeSantis. We're glad you're here for our uplifting conversation about faith and how it sustains our hearts through all the seasons of life. Thanks for walking with us. And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sowing Hope podcast. I am Bill Snyder. It is wonderful to be with you, and as you can see, I'm always joined by my good friend Ann DeSantis here on the Sowing Hope podcast, so thank you for tuning in and being with us. And we're on part, I believe, 8 of the series on the Synod. We took a break for a couple of weeks, and then we had a guest on, so we're going to finish out this series, this 10-part series, Ann, but I'm excited to be with you and be once again sharing faith here on Sowing Hope.
I am too. And even though we've had some breaks in between, I believe we both feel it's important for us to finish this one because the Synod is really a 2-year process that started in October of 2021 and it ends next year. And it's this whole awareness of walking with the church in a very universal way, that we're coming together to listen, to learn, and also to take the things that we know that are good about what the church is doing and do them even better and continue to do those, but also look at those areas for improvement and how we can be a better church all the way around. So it's just a joy to be able to discuss this with you, Bill.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. And, today we're going to be talking about a topic that, neither one of us have a ton of experience with because we're not pastors, but we're going to be talking about what makes a good pastor, and I guess that'll be through our eyes, folks, right? That's going to come through our experience. But Ann and I have zero experience being pastors. I've worked in a church for a period of time as a youth minister for about 10 years of my professional career, but in no way, shape, or form was I a pastor. So we just have to hear it through our perspective today, and our experience working in and around the church. I mean, obviously, we're in this professionally, have been for a long time. So we're gonna share our thoughts with you. So, Ann, any thoughts to kick that off?
Well, the first thought is just to give a little bit of a recap again about what the Synod is and who started it. Obviously, most people who are aware of what's happening in the church is that our Holy Father decided to bring the Synod about. And the whole idea is to really try to engage those people who have walked away from the church for one reason or another, open those doors up and say, welcome back. We want to listen to you. We want to improve. We want to be there for you. We want to be the field hospital that we're supposed to be, right? And caring about those people that God has given us that are in our own communities. And I think we both know that so many people have walked away from the Catholic Church, and there's all kinds of reasons why that happens. And so part of the reason why this Synod came about was to bring about kind of a revival, I guess. And you can learn more about it by going to Synod VA. That's synod.va. And it says right on the homepage, let's walk together as a church with the Holy Spirit. And I think the point is that we're keeping our ears open, our hearts open to what we learn from others. And the church did something called the DMI, that's the Disciple Maker Index survey that went out to Catholics all over the world. And I believe the last time that I read was that I think about 500,000 people or so took the survey. And so they learned so much about those areas of where people are exceeding, where the church is exceeding, and where we need to try a little bit harder. And what they learned was that one of the biggest reasons why people feel good or not so good about their parish community is the pastor himself and his leadership. So with that said, Bill, I didn't know if you had any comments on what does it take to be a good pastor in your experience?
It's a loaded question because, again, I'm not a pastor. But but as an active member of the Catholic Church, I would say the word that I look for uh, is exactly related to the title pastor, and that's being pastoral. Um, Now, that also gets construed oftentimes by a conservative, very, very, very conservative portion of the church or even our society as being a bad thing, right? But being pastoral simply means, in my view, to walk with somebody both in truth and in the circumstance of their lives. So those two things. Truth, we're not going to water down the beliefs of the Catholic Church. We're not going to make excuses for the truth, or bring things to a level, you know, where we begin excusing sin. But that priest also needs to remember that life is messy, and um, quite frankly, the majority of the ministering a priest does is to a lifestyle that they do not possess themselves. So, priests, the majority of Catholic priests, are not married, don't have children, don't understand the stresses um, and the difficulties of life from that that standpoint. They don't understand it from that angle. They have, many of them have been in good, solid, faithful families. Many of them have understood what it's like to live in a family. But you know, as far as being a father of children, and running around to um, soccer games and baseball games, and taking them to do different activities and things, and caring for children 24/7, they don't have that experience. Um, so oftentimes they get ragged on, like, oh man, you don't know what it's like. Well, we don't know what it's like to be running from sick call to sick call to um, you know uh, dicastery meeting to dicastery meeting. We don't, meeting with bishops, dealing with parishioners. And so there's two different types of realities when it comes to understanding one another a little bit. But I think the word pastoral means to understand and accompany somebody through the struggles and difficulties in their life, and do so in the truth of the faith. And I think the the priests that I have that come to mind for me, in that, are a lot of times my spiritual directors, people who will walk with me, who will talk with me, who will seek to understand my way of life, help me discern the difficulties that I'm going through, and then also reveal Christ's love in truth. And that's what this means. That's what to me a good pastor is. And I think that if you can do that, I think if you as a priest can do that, walk with somebody through the pain in their life, through the struggles in their life, but then also do so in truth and in love, you will be a great pastor. And I think the deep friendships that I have with priests, spiritual directors, and just friends that are priests, are that relationship. They are exactly that relationship. So, I get it. It's really hard to do that when you've got 3,000, families in your parish, and there's a lot of different things pulling you in a lot of different directions. It is a difficult thing out there in the world. But those would be my insights, Anne.
Yeah, they're good insights, because you said two main things I think that I heard was that you obviously, pastors have to be in the truth of the church, right? And when we're talking about pastors, I'm thinking of the actual pastor, but of course, our parochial vicars and other priests that work in ministry at churches, I mean, they have a big impact too. I think we're just focusing on a pastor because it's that whole top down idea, right? just like we have a pope and then the whole universal church, and we have bishops and then dioceses and archdioceses, we have churches and pastors that are the leaders, and then we have parochial vicars that are also there in leadership, but maybe not quite so much as the actual pastor. There's an organization that I want to refer to as well called the Catholic Leadership Institute. I don't have their website right in front of me, but they're a wonderful organization actually located not that far from where I am in the greater Philadelphia area. And they've done a lot of work and research about priests and leadership and the whole psychology of it. And, of course, I'm not quite as well versed as they are, but I would just recommend for people to look up the Catholic Leadership Institute, not only for pastoral leadership, but just overall Catholic leadership. I know that I've learned so much from them. And even for these synod meetings that we were doing through my archdiocese that I was able to attend through my own parish and learn so much. And one of those things that I learned was the impact of a pastor is just enormous. And it is the number one reason, I believe, and at least from what I was presented through the meetings that I had, as to why people either feel good or not so good about their church community, because the pastor does have such a bearing on that. I pulled up an article that I wanted to refer to, which all of you can look up if you want to follow along. That might be a good resource. It's called The 7 Qualities of a Fruitful Pastor. And it lists 7 qualities of pastoral leaders. And I'm just going to read all 7, and then maybe we can kind of back up and talk about each one. But they are being discipled, invested, relational, accountable, discerning, surrendered, empowering. So that's just some. And I would just say, look up that article if you have a chance. One of the things I think that is very important with a pastor, you don't always see this in pastoral life, but when a priest has a friendly demeanor toward his parishioners, and as Bill said, staying within the truth, we're not talking about just being this nice, friendly, funny priest, but a priest that also knows and loves his Catholic faith. When those two things can come together, I think it really makes for a successful parish. Now, of course, it has to have those other areas that I just discussed, right? There's also areas such as being discipled, invested, being relational. That's important, as I just said, but also accountable and discerning, surrendered and empowered. So let's just start out. I'll just read one of them. It says, discipled is first and foremost, a fruitful pastor leader must be a disciple, one who has an encounter with Jesus and intentionally chooses to follow him in the midst of the church. The discipleship process can not be understood from the outside. Fruitful pastoral leaders understand the spiritual journey toward discipleship and know how to help others and entrust their lives to Jesus. So, can you imagine if your pastor wasn't a disciple of Jesus? Unfortunately, it does happen. I hate to say that, but he's got to be discipled. Yeah. So let's just talk about that, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good, insight too, Anne, because when we look at discipleship, you just mentioned it, that some priests, are doing it for status maybe, or they're doing it, they join the priesthood for some, worldly status or some reason other than being a disciple of Jesus Christ. And, I think we want to remember that the words of Pope Francis, too, that a pastor should smell like the sheep, right? That it should be close to the people that he's ministering. And in order to be a disciple of Jesus, Jesus was close to everyone, that he ministered. He was a hands-on person. And so we need to be hands-on in our ministry as well. We can't just, leave, all the ministry aspects to somebody else. We've gotten into the mode of, I think, in the American parish, turning it over to people who are youth ministers or DREs or, people who are volunteers in marriage prep or, all these different things. and we don't have the time, or priests don't have the time to spend walking with and being a disciple of Christ in these areas. Like getting close to Jesus and walking with Jesus means walking with, those along the journey. And so we can't just always pass off the buck to our youth ministers or our other ministers in the parish. We ourselves have to be disciples and walk with those other disciples on the journey. Like, it's so important. That's what Jesus did. He walked with the apostles every step of the way, but then he went out and he ministered to people, and he was a hands-on God. He was not, let me sit back and just, let my apostles do this. No, he healed himself. And yeah, his apostles did that too. The disciples drove out demons too. They did all that. That's wonderful. But the priest, Jesus, who is like Jesus, right, in persona Christi, in the sacramental life, he also did those things. And you have to remember who the apostles and disciples did those things under, right? They did it under the name of Jesus. They didn't do it under the name of somebody else. So, be like Jesus means to be a disciple of him, follow him, follow in his footsteps in ministry. And, again, this is coming from somebody who's not a pastor and is, making this probably way too easy to say and much harder to do. So I applaud all the amazing work that, pastors are doing.
Yeah, I do too. And I love how you express that, because Jesus Christ is the head of the Catholic Church, isn't he? I mean, he's not the founder. I mean, right now the head of the Catholic Church on earth is the Pope, right? But Jesus is the head. He's the head of everything. And so pastors have a lot of responsibility, as you said. And the most important responsibility that they have, though, is to being Christ and administering the sacraments in the proper way, and in loving people, and in caring about their flock, and actually doing those corporal and spiritual works of mercy to their flock, and teaching others to do the same, right? Because pastors also are helping to engage those parishioners, those people, those followers of Christ, to be Christ to others, because he can't do everything himself, right? He can't do everything himself. But I just want to go back to that whole idea in the article that I referred to. And the article is at m3catholic.com, 7 Qualities of a Fruitful Pastor. One of those qualities is being relational. Now, I understand not everybody's outgoing. Not everybody has that sort of engaging personality. But it says that a fruitful pastor leaders understand that ultimately their role is to foster their own relationship with Jesus, as well as the relationship of others with Jesus. And they create cultures that promote those relationships. One of the key ways that they do this is by accompanying others relationally. Even if the role has a large administrative component, they never lose sight of the reality that it is all about Jesus and the people they serve. This extends to their colleagues and their staff members. Effective pastoral leaders build a web of authentic relationships and choose to work collaboratively rather than in silos. I would like to, Bill, just for a minute, just engage me here for a minute, that I know 2 pastors who do this very well. And my new pastor at my church, I'm just getting to know, but so far he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. But my former pastor, who's no longer with us, I would say he is a good pastor in every single sense of the word. Not only was he relational, but he was very good with his office staff, church teaching. He was organized. He knew when he would see me or my family, he'd greet me by name. He remembered things. He was just an overall A+ of a pastor. And another one of our wonderful Mercedarian pastors that you and I know, Bill, which I'm not going to get into any names here, but does the same thing, very engaging, knows his church teaching, passes it on to others, and really and truly cares about his parishioners to a personal level, but is also able to engage others to be a part of that church community and to make a difference for the entire parish. So I don't know, Bill, if you have any personal examples of what it means in your own life, because I know that those two pastors that I just talked to you about, they're real lovers of Christ, and they love people too. And when pastors love the people, you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
And when they don't, you can also tell too. When they don't really want anything to do with the people, or when they're short-tempered and things like that, where they don't have time, they're just too busy for everything and
Yeah.
too busy to say hello, you know? So I didn't know if you had any
Yeah.
words of wisdom there.
Oh, absolutely. I'm gonna give it from the opposite perspective, though. I remember because you gave a
Okay.
great one there. I remember when I was sitting in a staff meeting one time in a parish, and this priest was named into our parish in an unfortunate circumstance, and we asked him, what this means, from your perspective, and he just quoted canon law at us. We were sitting in the staff meeting, and he quoted canon law that I have all the faculties and rights of a normal pastor, even though I'm a temporary guy, and blah 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 blah. And I just remember sitting there, feeling so turned off by the way that approach, happened. Like, okay, yeah, how about you're going to minister to the best of your ability and help others? No, you're just going to quote canon law that says, I'm here as the, temporary administrator pastor while this situation gets worked out. And by the way, I have all the authority that I need under canon law. Like, it just rubbed me the wrong way. And it just didn't feel good, sitting in that staff meeting, like, oh, this guy's just going to be here to hold a position, but we better not cross him, because if we cross him, he's going to, he's got the authority to do whatever we need to do. Like, I just think, again, being pastoral and saying, hey, this is a difficult situation you guys have been put in, and I'm here to help. This is what the bishop has decided, but that didn't happen. And so it rubbed me the wrong way. It gave me a bad taste in my mouth. And so I would just, encourage pastors, look, we get it. The church gets it. I think by and large church gets it. I know Ann and I are hyper involved. We're super involved in our parishes. We're super involved in ministry. But I would venture to say that the majority of Catholics get and understand the state of the Catholic Church and its difficulty, and why things are happening the way they are on a administrative level, and they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt, on that. They are, but you've still got to be kind. You still have to be pastoral, and you still have to say, hey, I'm here with you. I am in the trenches with you, to your parish staff, versus a top-down, legislative approach to your ministry. So I hope that maybe fills it in a little bit. But yeah, be relational. Be relational. Walk with people, and go to a ball game every once in a while. Go to a baseball game with your parishioner every once in a while.
Yeah. Well said, Bill. I mean, working with the Catholic Church, whether you are a priest, a pastor, a layperson, whoever, it's a human job, right? So I'm going to just say this. If somebody doesn't like people and you don't care really that much about people, just you care more about the rules and the regulations, like Bill just said, honestly, I don't think that being involved in any kind of ministry is for you, because it is a people job either way. I mean, you can't get around it. It's not just, as Bill said, knowing your canon law and rules and regulations and just business. When you hear pastors being referred to as a good businessman, I get it, or a good business person, however you want to word it. And we know that there's that money side of everything, right? There's the financial aspects of everything, but Um, it's really, it should be a small portion of what they do, even though we know that it's a lot more than that. I have so much empathy for them for all of the work that they have to do administratively. But let's face it, it is a people job. And we're there for the salvation of souls, but not just the salvation of souls for our own soul, too, right?
Mm.
I think if we miss that part, we've missed it all, because we all are, nobody's there yet. Nobody's in heaven yet. We're all a work in progress. Sin has an effect on every life, even in the church, inside and outside of the church, even pastors, priests, religious, parish staff, everybody. So we have to come together in our humanness, and we have to get out there in that field hospital that Pope Francis has talked so much about, because it is a field hospital right now. There are so many people that need God, and they need their faith, and they need to know that they are cared about and loved, and that the church cares and we're there for them. Um, so, Bill, I think it's been a wonderful podcast. I think that the topics that we've discussed are very good. I want to just refer that article again, just so that people can look it up, the m3catholic.com, 7 Qualities of a Fruitful Pastor. And again, let me just read them. I know I've read them a few times, but disciplined, invested, relational, accountable, discerning, and surrendered, and empowering. Just look it
Mm.
up and read it, because I think you'll learn a little bit more, just like I did by reading it,
Yeah.
about what are those qualities. And, we need to support our pastors and our priests with prayer too, because they're not perfect. And we're not here on this podcast to say they need to be perfect,
No.
but we are here to say that Bill used the word being kind and being nice and being friendly. I mean, I'm going to say it bluntly. I mean, it is part of the job, right? And it is a reason why people leave the church. And when they did these, the surveys for the synod, when people don't like their pastor for whatever reason, I mean, it can be a big reason about why people want to leave. So we do need to pray about that, so that we're welcoming. And as Bill said, we're still following that church teaching and all the
Mm.
proper teachings of our church, but we don't want to be reading off canon law like the one priest that Bill was, in the meeting that Bill was discussing, where there was no relational part of that whatsoever. There was nothing friendly about it. There was nothing ministerially about it, right? So we need to just recognize that. Bill, thanks so much for everything with this podcast.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this is again, it's a beautiful topic. It's a difficult topic. Again, if I think, to touch on, is we're not pastors. But hopefully you got a little something from our eyes of being around the church and being involved in the church, working for the church, like we do. And again, encourage, I just close with this, and I think it's a, maybe good analogy to close with. You remember when, Moses, was fighting the battle, and Aaron and Hur were holding the hands up of Moses. That's what we have to be. That's what the laity has to be for our priests, right? We have to be the ones that hold up, our priests' hands, so that they can do the great work of God, and help us win the battle, and help the church win the battles that they are currently facing. So support your priests, support them, right? Have them over for dinner, and even if they tell you they're too busy 25 times, invite them on the 26th time, because they may just need that dinner away from the hustle and the bustle of their busy lives. They need the encounter with us in a non-sacramental environment too. So yeah, Anne, I appreciate all that you do for this, and it's a great episode, and we'll finish it off. Why don't you tell people what the next couple of topics that we're planning on discussing are, if you have? I don't know, do you have them in front of you? I know we were talking
Yes,
earlier.
I'm pulling them up right now, Bill. We're very human on this
Yeah,
podcast,
we
aren't
are.
we?
Yes, we are. And it's good though. It's a good thing.
It is.
So
The next couple topics are Episode 9 will be outreach to the marginalized at the parish level, and number 10, our last one, is being an inviting community.
Oh, beautiful.
And all about this synod, and then we'll have our 10 parts. We also want to just call you to our Patchwork Heart Ministry YouTube channel and go to the playlist for the synod and share it with your church community, because we're doing this whole series to educate people on this synod and what we should do to be a more inviting community of faith.
Yes. And one more thing, just since we made the announcement last week on Facebook, we'll make it here, right? That we're going to be doing a Eucharistic Summit as well, right? And that will be December 6th, 7th, and 8th. So go to our website, patchworkheart.org or patchworkheartradio.org. Sign up for the newsletter over there and sign up for the Eucharistic Summit. So I know that that's being blasted all over our Facebooks, all over social media, the sign up form. So go sign up for it. And we will, it's completely free. There's no charge. So please sign up. We have amazing speakers already lined up that are going to be coming to join us for these 15-minute talks on these 3 nights. So check it out, and we do appreciate you all tuning in. But until next time, from all of us here at Patchwork Heart Ministry, my name is Bill Snyder, and DeSantis is right there. May God bless you, your families, keep beating to your Catholic heart and sowing hope into broken hearts. Thanks for listening to this episode of Sowing Hope on Patchwork Heart Radio. For more information about this podcast and our ministries, visit our websites, patchworkheart.org and andesantis.com. You can also follow and interact with us on Twitter at PWH Ministry or Andy Santis 2.